Welcome back to another edition of Literary Diss Tracks. Today we have Jennifer Weiner, author of Best Friends Forever, Good in Bed, In Her Shoes, versus Jonathan Franzen, author of The Corrections and Freedom. You're going to want to stick around because this one gets nasty. So in 2010, Jonathan Franzen publishes Freedom, which establishes himself as the darling of the upper echelons of the literati. It was written about extensively and lavishly across every major publication, including many appearances in the New York Times. Jennifer Weiner saw all the attention that Franzen's Freedom was getting from these outlets and believed it symptomatic of a larger problem in publishing, with Franzen as sort of the face of this problem. And she called it Franzenfreud, or this disproportionate attention and affection heaped on literary fiction written by white men. This is also just related to a broader issue in publishing, namely this tendency to group women's writing as a genre unto itself, oftentimes under that umbrella of chick lit, while men, particularly white men, more gracefully slot into that coveted space of literary fiction without question, and thus receive more attention from the serious trade publications. So Jennifer Weiner takes to Twitter to discuss this discrepancy that she sees, and noting that Franzen possesses an enormous amount of privilege that he seems unaware of, saying, quote, "Try to find a woman who's gotten that kind of attention. The New York Times loves its literary darlings who tend to be dudes with MFAs." Weiner's critiques of Franzen, but also the New York Times, receives a tremendous amount of attention. And in an interview with the Huffington Post, Jennifer Weiner clarifies, quote, "Do I think I should be getting all of the attention that Jonathan Genius Franzen gets? Nope. However," she adds, quote, "would I like to be taken at least as seriously as a Jonathan Tropper or a Nick Hornby? Absolutely." Then, in an interview with NPR in that same year, Jennifer Weiner identifies a disparity of treatment between women writing fiction and men writing fiction. She writes, quote, "It's just interesting to sort of stack them up against a Lori Moore or against a Mona Simpson, who write books about families that are seen as excellent books about families. And then to look at a Jonathan Franzen who writes a book about a family, but we are told this is a book about America." In 2013, Jonathan Franzen sort of responds. He writes an essay in The Guardian called "What's Wrong with the Modern World," in which he bemoans authors who are using Twitter, not just because he believes that Twitter is not a suitable medium for authors to be engaging on, but also that it's diluting their work in some way. And in this piece, he points specifically to Jennifer Weiner, accusing other writers of engaging in, quote, Jennifer Weiner-ish self-promotion. Jennifer Weiner shortly thereafter responded in her own essay, writing, quote, "Franzen can choose to be horrified by what he sees as shocking new developments on the literary landscape, instead of modern writers continuing the long-time practice of getting their books into readers' hands by any means necessary. But he cannot pretend that literary writers who have been ensorcelled into a headlong rush for clicks and add to carts, pure souls who've been corrupted by exposure to commercial Philistines with itchy Twitter fingers. If Franzen's being honest, he'll acknowledge that the problem isn't just writers like me, it's also writers like him." In 2015, Jonathan Franzen is being interviewed by Butler University's literary journal Booth, and they present to him this question of the gender disparity that Jennifer Weiner had raised, to which Franzen says it's, quote, "tricky because there's something about Jennifer Weiner that rubs me the wrong way, something I don't trust." What is it that he doesn't trust? Well, he clarifies that she is, quote, "asking for a respect that not just male reviewers, but female reviewers don't think her work merits." He goes on to say, quote, "To me, it seems she's freeloading on the legitimate problem of gender bias in the canon, and over the years in the major review organs to promote herself, basically. And that seems like a dubious project that is ideally suited to social media, where you don't actually have to argue, you just tweet. Where is her long essay about this, where she really makes a case? She has no case, so she tweets." For this reason, he deems her, quote, "an unfortunate person to have as a spokesperson for this issue of gender discrimination in the reviews of literature." And he also adds that he's actually never read any of her novels, saying, quote, "I have yet to hear one person say, 'Oh, she's really good, you should read her.' And basically, if two people say that about a book, I'll read it. I know no one, male or female, who says, 'You've got to read Jennifer Weiner.'" Jennifer Weiner responds to this jab on Twitter, writing, quote, "Once more with feeling with regards to the Franzen interview, I've never asked for more regard for my work than what male genre writers get." She also adds, quote, "I've never bashed another writer's work without reading it." And famously, Jennifer Weiner then proceeds to deem Franzen, quote, "the worst internet boyfriend ever."